Mike up there, by the way.
Oh, that's Mike.
Everybody on here is called. Everybody's called Mike. Yeah. In actual fact, if your name's John, you have to change it.
We're tackling corrosion on the wings.
Right, I see.
Okay, so that's an example of what we're trying to do is to remove the corrosion, repaint it, replace panels that is showing you how they're replacing panels that are corroded away. Right. An example of how it will look when it's finished. If you come round to this side here, that's the first layer of paint that's been put on.
Right, I see.
So when you can compare it with that wing there, you can see the sort of problem that we've got.
Okay. So how long does it take to restore and paint this part of the wing? I mean,
it took us a year to do the top wing.
Right.
The top wing's a huge space. I mean, if you wanted to take the camera there, you could visualise the space that we have to cover. So it's got to be decorroded. It's got to then have primer undercoat put on it, and it's also got to have 2 or 3 coats of top coat on it. So it's a year's job. You know, there's only 2 of us doing it. This plane was flown in 1960 and it was retired in the mid-1980s, and very little has been done with it since then. So what we've got is we've got a major task on our hand, and it was quite unique in the respect that the rear door opens on the aircraft, the front door opens on the aircraft, and it's a roll-off freight, so it's quite unique. But we said this was the back door opens, the front opens, and this was a roll-on, roll-off freight deck, right down to the front.
Right.
The cabin that's being built, this was built in the early 1990s by the volunteers at the park, because we have a lot of school children coming here. And so at lunchtime it's great for them to sit on the seats, pull the tables down and eat the lunch, and we also have a video we can put on for them. So if you want to take a step through the video,
I'll let you go first. So we've got all the exposed airframe, no interior panelling in here.
No,
so you can see hydraulics.
Yes. And again, this whole front section opens out, so bring the freight in either end and then take it out either end. The unique thing about this the toilet bay there, the toilet compartment, and the passenger and the crew baggage compartment, and that's an L-SAN toilet. So when they've finished, then what they would do is they would pick the toilet up and carry it out and empty it.
Literally.
So I would think that the pilot rather than the captain would have that.
Okay. Not one I would like.
The cockpit is unusual because it's above the freight deck, and this is where I think Boeing copied the 747 design from. Obviously you've got the full deck here for loading and unloading cargo. These aren't the original steps, these were from Bramcote swimming baths. The original steps were vertical steps, so the pilot and co-pilot would climb into the cockpit and then retract the steps and put the hatch down, and then the loadmaster would load up the aircraft. Okay. I've spent 2.5 years stripping out the cockpit, rewiring it, re-engineering it, and now we have a fully lit display in the cockpit.
Wow,
because as a museum, what you've got is you've got a static display, and I think what we have to do is we've got to reinvent ourselves year on year so that the public have something different to see.
Which is a battle in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, trying to keep everyone engaged in it. But
well, these are some of the original lighting lights that were in this aircraft. So we've renovated those lights, and what we've done is we'll be removing the fluorescent lighting and the tungsten halogen lighting, so we'll give it a resemblance of what it was like when it was a flying aircraft. the light, what I'll do is I'll put a bit of light on there for you. The cockpit lights are on.
Oh wow.
We've got 1 or 2 features on this. You can hear that buzzing noise at the moment. That's the anti-collision lights that are revolving above your head.
Yeah, I can see that on the roof.
On the roof, yeah. The engines, we've got the engine start panel working, so that if we want to demonstrate how to start the aircraft, then we'll be able to do that. So that's we can show people how the engine would start. We've also got the weather radar systems lit. The whole of the cockpit had been overpainted. This whole section here was black, so we've brought this back to life in its original colours. We've also got a transmission coming in from the air traffic control centre across the way. So when they're broadcasting, it's great for people to be able to hear that. These seats had been badly damaged. We've had these reupholstered, and they cost us £600 each to have done. But this is in the original material that was put on there in the 1960s.
Wow.
So, and you can see it's when you scan around the cockpit, it's quite a large cockpit. For an aircraft of this, yes, much more generous, yes.
We've just been inside the Vulcan, and it's one extreme to another, isn't it?
Oh, we've got things that are interesting. We've got the fire test system, and also the alarm if the aircraft is too close to ground. You've got the ground horn. So these things put a bit more realism into the aircraft itself.
It's amazing.
It's great. I bet the kids love it, don't they?
Yes, they do.
It's nice when you can get a reaction from the actual cockpit, because it's all well seeing it all lit up and the different gauges, but if you get a bit of response from it as well, I mean, we
do like people to come into the cockpit, but we're a little bit reticent to allow them to sit in the seats and play around with the control systems, because this aircraft is quite old, and if anything gets broken on there, it's just not replaceable.
No, absolutely.
So we've got full control over all the throttle controls are working. Everything works on there that will allow us to have say a father and son sit together, and we can then take them through the startup procedure, and they can actually go through the startup procedure that the pilot would do in real life. It came here in the early 1980s or the mid 1980s.
Right.
It was owned by a company called Elan, which was a subsidiary of DHL.
Right.
And when DHL came to renewing its piston fleet, changing over to jets, they looked at the 2 aircraft they had, the 2 ARGOSY aircraft, and realised that these weren't supportable any longer. So they integrated the Elan contracts into the DHL contracts, and these 2 aircraft became redundant. Unfortunately, they were which makes it impossible for us to do much with the aircraft. The hydraulic systems have gone, a lot of the electrical systems have been taken out, so we've worked with what we've got, and as far as the cockpit's concerned, we've re-engineered all the panels inside the cockpit so we can operate it as though it was a live aircraft.
That's fantastic.
So
great work. We can only commend you on what you've done with it. And as far as working on an aircraft this old, I mean, is a lot of it a learning curve, or is there a lot of kind of similarities with obviously other aircraft around them?
Well, I think where it helped me is this aircraft was built in the 1960s. I did an electrical engineering apprenticeship in the 1960s, and so it was pretty easy for me to take control of the circuitry in this aircraft and redesign it. So it wasn't really a problem for me. I felt at home doing it.
I was going to say, I bet you felt at home.
Yes.
What a home it is.
Yes, there we are. Life.
And just to confirm, this is what people can do just from visiting this airpark, and visiting and their entry when they come in. They
That's
can
right.
experience all this. That there's no special conditions to be able to do this. This is what all the effort and
yes.
which you guys put in, which allow the public to be able to view this, which I think is absolutely absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You know, a job well done, and I think
well,
everyone will appreciate that.
Well, the other thing about it is that in terms of volunteers, we are short of volunteers, and if anyone who is watching wanted to host visitors coming into aircraft, then we'd be delighted to see them. We'd give them full instructions about the aircraft that they were hosting, get them to understand its lifestyle, its lifespan, and it's quite good when you can actually invite visitors aboard an aircraft, and it's something that I think people would like to see when they come to a museum, rather than just visually look at them on the outside. I think they'd like to really go inside and see what it's all about.
I think half the battle is trying to actually immerse yourself in what it's about, and get to know its character, because it's got its own quirks, it's got its own unique identity, and you know, to immerse yourself in that rather than just looking at something goes a long way.